Khanna and Bernie Sanders are going after Walmart now to try and make them raise their wages. Sanders introduced a bill to force Walmart to pay $15 minimum wage. Senator Bernie Sanders will introduce legislation Thursday with Representative Khanna intended to force Walmart to pay workers at least $15 an hour. The bill would institute fines for corporations that buy back their own stock unless they set their workers' base pay at that level. Quote, last year, 4 members of the Walton family of Walmart made $12.7 billion in one day. It would take a full-time Walmart worker making $11 an hour, 653,000 years to make that much. Thursday, Representative Khanna and I are introducing legislation to make Walmart pay its workers a living wage, Sanders tweeted Tuesday. In another tweet, Sanders fumed, the Walton family of Walmart owns more wealth than the bottom 40% of Americans. The legislation will be named the Stop Walmart Act, CNN reported Wednesday. Sanders has been pushing individual companies to adopt the $15 an hour wage, calling on McDonald's Corporation last month to pay that and threatening a public pressure campaign if it didn't. In early August, Amazon announced it would make $15 the base pay for its employees following a similar campaign by Sanders, which also included legislation, the Stop Bezos Act. Okay, so now remember, Khanna and Bernie Sanders got shit the last time they tried this, and it worked. They got shit from people, not just on the right, but also on the left, who said, oh, the way that you frame the Stop Bezos Act, you're shaming people who use the social safety net, and we don't agree with that. Yes, but it was the framing of it was effectively a political trick to make Bezos think that, hey, this is going to have bipartisan appeal, and then he acted, and it worked. It worked. That was the brilliance of that framing. The idea was, hey, for anybody who works for Jeff Bezos who ends up using the social safety net, we're going to tax Jeff Bezos at 100% for the amount of money his workers get from the social safety net. So the right-wing side of that, which they loved, is, oh, this makes the social safety net smaller because it's everybody who's a Jeff Bezos employee who uses it. You know, Jeff Bezos is reimbursing the government for that lost money. So the right wing loved that portion of it, and the left wing, most of us, loved the idea that, oh, we can get a living wage out of this for Amazon workers. That's great. So it worked. So all the naysayers were wrong, and it's so funny because the argument is like only the practical centrists can get real results accomplished, like Pelosi and Schumer. Yeah, what they get accomplished is more war and more corporatism and more deregulation and things of that nature. What the actual lefties, Bernie Sanders and Khanna, got accomplished is a raise for 350,000 Americans. Now, it's not perfect because Jeff Bezos did get rid of some, extra incentives like bonus structures and things of that nature. But make no mistake about it, the bill was still a net win for the overwhelming majority of the workers, a raise for 350,000 people. And by the way, this is also why the Fight for 15 movement, they're pushing for $15 an hour and a union. Because if you have $15 an hour and a union, you probably aren't going to lose those benefits on top of getting the $15 an hour. Okay, so I digress from that. It worked. They're trying to do a similar thing now with Walmart. And by the way, if employers paid a living wage, taxpayers would save $150 billion a year on government assistance programs, including food stamps, Medicaid, and public housing. So again, this is why even people on the right should support a living wage. Because what you're saying is, I'm going to make these individual, massively profitable corporations, I'm going to make them pay their workers a living wage, because if they don't pay them a living wage, those workers pick up the slack and they go to the government, and then you have a bigger government and a bigger social safety net. So that's why even right-wingers should support the idea of a living wage. And let's be clear, it's for people, they've been crafting these pieces of legislation for bigger businesses, so 500 employees or more. And that brilliance of that framing is, what's one of the counter arguments you always hear from the right is, oh, you can't do a living wage because some of the small businesses can't afford to do it, so they're going to fire people. So you can't do that. Okay, well, for this particular piece of legislation, if the business has to have 500 employees or more, so it's a bigger business, and the profit margins are bigger, so they can afford to do it. So where's your objection now? You have none. And so this one was crafted a little differently because they're going after their stock buybacks. Now, What are stock buybacks? Well, let's listen to economist Robert Reich explain this. Take a look.
In Trump's view, the economy works well when the stock market does well.
Wrong.
But a big reason stocks rise in value and don't fall as far as they would otherwise is stock buybacks. For years, corporations have spent most of their profits on buying back their own shares of stock, instead of increasing the wages of their employees, whose hard work creates these profits. Stock buybacks are artificial efforts to interfere in the so-called free market to prop up stock prices. Because they create an artificial demand, they force stock prices above their natural level. With fewer shares in circulation, each remaining share is worth more. Buybacks don't create more or better jobs. Money spent on buybacks isn't invested in new equipment, or research and development, or factories, or wages. It doesn't build a company. Buybacks don't grow the American economy. So why are buybacks so popular with corporate CEOs? Because a bigger and bigger portion of CEO pay has been in stocks and stock options rather than cash. So when share prices go up, executives reap a bonanza. The value of their pay from previous years also rises in what amounts to a retroactive and off-the-books pay increase on top of their already outrageous compensation. Now that the new corporate tax cut is pumping up profits, buybacks are on track to hit a record $800 billion this year. Buybacks were illegal until Ronald Reagan made them legal in 1982, just about the same time wages stopped rising for most Americans. Before then, a bigger percentage of corporate profits went into increasing workers' wages. Trump and Republicans branded their huge corporate tax cut as a way to make American businesses more profitable, so they'd invest in more and better jobs. But since corporations were already using their profits for stock buybacks, there's no reason to believe they will use their tax windfall on anything other than more stock buybacks. Let's not compound the error. Make stock buybacks illegal, as they were before 1982.
Brilliant explanation, says it all. I didn't even know that until I saw that video, that stock buybacks were illegal until 1982. And then right around the same time, that's when wages started stagnating for the American people. Yeah, it's because the money that used to go to increasing wages, the people at the top of the company are now using for stock buybacks to boost their own pay, basically. That's nuts, man. So what they're doing here is they're saying, hey, if you pay a living wage, you can still do stock buybacks. If you don't pay a living wage, we're banning you from doing stock buybacks. Brilliant. Brilliant. It might fucking work again, man. You never know. It might work again. Bernie Sanders and Khanna are not fucking around. I mean, they're targeting specific companies, and they're like, bitch, say something. I'm coming after you. I love it. I love it. I love it. With the Republicans controlling the Senate and Donald Trump in the White House, they managed to get a raise for 350,000 Americans with what they did with Amazon. And now they're trying it again with Walmart. This is why you need people who reflect that ideology and power, man. Because there is real material gain for so many Americans when you have people fighting for you.